solving quadratic equation, uh, we are also here going to apply certain steps in order for us to easily, or in order for us to have a guide in solving a certain problem. So here, for us to have a guide in solving quadratic equation by completing the square, we are also going to apply certain steps. So the steps today, just like the first two, so we are going to add it to an acronym or to a word na tatawagin natin tatay. So bakit nga ba tatay yung steps natin in solving quadratic equation by completing the square? Tatay, yun yung sinasabing haligi ng tahanan. So, first of all, you're not here without your father. Wala ka sa mundong ito kung wala sa tatay mo. And also, yung may isang araw sa isang taon na sineselebrate natin yung Father's Day. That is to give thanks to our Father na naging dahilan kung bakit tayo nandito sa mundong ibabaw. So, whether you hate or you love your father so much, still it doesn't change the fact that he is your father. He is the reason why you're here. So, yung hatred, kung meron man, mawawala rin yan soon. Pero yung tatay mo, pag nawala yan, wala na. Because, nag-iisa lang yan. Yan lang yung nag-iisang dahilan kung bakit ka nandito. Together with your mother. Kapag nawala yung tatay mo, wala na. So, habang nabubuhay ka, show your father that you love them. That you love him. You love your father. So, hindi man sa mga paraan na pagiging showy, pero sa mga ibang bagay, katulad ng pagsunod sa utos, katulad ng katulad ng mga bagay na for example, mga gusto niya, ibibigay mo yung mga gusto niya, so in that way, napapasaya natin yung mga tatay natin. Well, I'm sure yung mga tatay natin are proud of us. Proud sila sa atin kapag sila sasama-sama ng mga kaibigan nila. So, I'm sure binibida nila yung mga anak nila. So, if their children are doing good in a certain thing, for example sa pag-aaral, so binibitan nila yung mga anak nila. So, hindi nyo lang nakikita, pero pag sila ay nagsama-sama mga kaibigan, so nagpapayabangan sila ng mga anak nila. So, dapat gawin natin tama. So, what if you're not good as a son or a daughter? So, di ba? Anong may ikikwento ng tatay mo doon? So, makikinig lang siya. Di ba? So, hindi man ibig sabihin na kailangan mong maging maging matalinong estudyante. Kasi yung pagiging matalino hindi naman nasusukat. Yung magiging ikaw in the future sa pagiging matalino mo o sa pagiging tapos mo na pag-aaral. But iba pa rin, syempre, may natapos ka ng pag-aaral. Syempre, mas madaling maghanap ng trabaho kapag nakatapos ka ng pag-aaral. So, as I was saying, hindi naman kailangan maging magaling ka o matalino kang estudyante. So, by just simply obeying your father or obeying things na gusto niyang gawin mo is already enough para malaman ng tatay mo na proud siya sa'yo. So, enough na yun. So, hanggat kayo, bata pa kayo, so you still have time para ipakita sa mga tatay ninyo kung paano nyo sila pinapahalagaan, kung paano nyo sila pinamahal. So, it's not yet too late. So, huwag nating hintayin dumating yung time na huli na yung lahat. So, mas maganda, gawin na ngayon nang hindi na humantong dun sa pagkakataon na maging huli. So, that's our steps in solving quadratic equation by completing the square. So, ano nga ba yung tatay na yan? Let's start with T. The first T stands for transform the given equation in the form ax squared plus bx is equal to c, where a is equal to 1. So, look at the given equation here. So, here, it's required that if you're going to use completing the square as a method, from the general form of the quadratic equation, where c is on the left side, you're going to move that to the right side of the equation. So, dapat, on the left side of the equation are just the linear term, or just the quadratic term, and the linear term. While on the right side is just the constant term. And also, another condition here is that your a should be equal to 1. Ito dapat value ng a na to, dapat yan ay 1. So, if that is not 1, you still have to make it 1 first by simplifying it. So, dapat we have to make that value of the value of a here na 1. In that case, mas madali nating naiampay yung completing the square as a method in solving quadratic equation. Also, completing the square is a method when factoring is not available as a method in solving a certain quadratic equation. It's because if you cannot apply sum and product method or even AC method, then maybe completing the square will help us in solving that kind of equation. So, again, you have to write first your equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0. The second step, a. The first a stands for add both sides of the equation by b over 2 quadratic square to form PST or perfect square trinomial on the left side of the equation. Yun. Kanina binanggit natin yung b over 2 quantity squared. That plays a very important role in order for us to solve quadratic equation by completing the square. Kasi sabi dito, that b over 2 quantity square will help us form PST. Makaka-form dapat tayo ng perfect square trinomial on the left side of the given quadratic equation na naka-transform in this form of the equation. So, magkakaroon siya ngayon ng bagong constant dito. That constant na i-add natin on this comes from the expression b over 2 quantity squared. So, nasaan yung b na yun na sinasabi natin? That b is the numerical coefficient of the linear term in the given quadratic equation. So, itong b na to, whatever number is the value of that, so just divide it by 2, then square that number, that would be the number to be added on both sides of the equation. On both sides pa rin tayo, it's because since we are still dealing with equation, so again, whatever you do on one side, you will also do that on the other side. So it's not just only that you are going to add it on the left side, but also on the right side of the equation. So second, using b over 2 quantity squared is needed. The value of it will be added on both sides of the equation for us to form perfect square trinomial. Next step, second P. Second P stands for then factor the left side and use exactly the roots afterwards. So, dalawang method pa lang gagamit natin. Since we already know extracting the roots as a method in solving quadratic equation, then after adding the value of b over 2 quantity squared on both sides of the equation, this left side of the equation now will become perfect squared trinomial. So, the factor of a perfect squared trinomial is a square of binomial. The binomial that was raised to the second power. Just like an example that we answered when we discussed extracting the roots. That binomial that inside the parentheses that was raised to the second power. So that will if we factor that perfect square trinomial, ganun yung mangyayari. Then if that will happen, we are now going to use extracting the roots afterwards. So we are now going to apply extracting the roots, just like how we solved that example when we discussed extracting the roots before. So, ganun na yung gagawin natin. Then, after that, so the second A stands for end solve the resulting equation. Diba ginagawa natin? When we remove the square in that square of binomial by getting the square root of both sides by using extracting the roots, so mawawala na yung square doon. Then we are going to find the root of the constant term, which is the positive and the negative root of it. So we can solve it by separating the two equations, by separating the two signs, by forming two equations for us to easily come up with a solution to a given quadratic equation. So we are going to separate the positive and the negative sign of the roots of a given number for us to come up with the solutions to a quadratic equation. Then last, y stands for you check using the given equation. So as I was saying, as I told you before, so for you to check using the given equations, once you already found out the solution to that equation, so since there are two, so you are going to substitute first one to the first solution to the original equation given, then also you're going to substitute the second solution to that same original given equation. So if it satisfies the equation, then ibig sabihin the answer is correct. So you are doing right in solving a quadratic equation by completing the square. So again, in order for us to solve quadratic equation by completing the square, all you have to do is to remember si tatay. Because si tatay, siya ang steps natin in solving quadratic equation by extracting